Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, Donald Trump has denied using a racial slur to describe African countries. Some politicians who were in the room at the time insist he did. But the international furore over what he did or didn't say seems about par for the course for the 45th President of the United States. At least, if you believe the revelations in the explosive new book by Michael Wolff. It's Martin Luther King Day in America. President Trump finds himself denying accusations of racism.
No, I'm not a racist. I am the least racist person you have ever interviewed. That I can tell you.
It's his first response to claims he used offensive and vulgar language to describe African nations, among others. And it comes at a time when he's still fighting the fallout from Fire and Fury, a book the Trump administration wanted to block.
This man does not read, does not listen.
The author, Michael Wolff, gained access to the White House in the first 7 months of Donald Trump's presidency and exposed so-called deep divisions among those closest to the man himself. On one side, his daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared, disparagingly dubbed Javanka by Trump's chief strategist Steve Bannon. He thought the kids, as he called them, were politically clueless. Forced out of the White House, the publication of the book also saw Steve Bannon kicked from his perch at the alt-right website Breitbart News. What really upset the president and the financiers of Breitbart were Bannon's comments that Mr. Trump had lost his mind. The White House press team has faced question after question about the mental stability of the commander-in-chief.
If he was unfit, he probably wouldn't be sitting there.
The president's taken to his trusted Twitter account to describe himself as a very stable genius. The book, according to him, is merely more fake news. Well, I spoke to Michael Wolff a short time ago from New York, and I asked him whether he thought the current state of the White House was any better now compared to when he was in there himself.
Well, I have no reason to believe that it would be, since the central problem with the White House is Donald Trump.
If we go back to the origins of writing this book, it's pretty clear that Trump kind of liked you. I mean, he called you spontaneously, either very soon after he got in there or just before he got into the White House. And did he know that you would write a book about him?
Yes, of course. Yes, and I've known Trump for 20 years. You know, certainly not, we have not been intimate friends, but we have been very pleasant acquaintances for 20 years. Yes, I told him that I wanted to write a book. He was completely uninterested in the idea of a book, but basically said, sure, okay, knock yourself out. I was usually there 3 days a week, at least in Washington, for 3 or 4 days a week for about 7 months.
Has he been in contact with you since?
Well, his lawyers have been in contact with me. He's suing me, so I suppose that's some form of contact. He's tweeted nonstop about me.
Now, you said that you've known him for 20 years, and I wonder, therefore, whether you can contrast at all how he was 20 years ago with how he is now.
Well, you know, I think that's something very hard to do because he wasn't the president of the United States. You know, Donald Trump has been Donald Trump. I mean, we've all seen this. This is not a mystery. He's a you know, a show-off and a playboy, and and in almost every respect, not anyone who anybody would think of as a serious person. And then he became the president of the United States, and that has a whole series, to put it mildly, of other implications.
One of the words you did not use in that list was racist. It's pretty clear that there are a lot of people who believe that the President of the United States is currently a racist.
I actually, there's an interesting bit in my book in which Steve Bannon is trying to say that he doesn't believe that Donald Trump is an anti-Semite, but he wouldn't be sure about the other things, meaning that that Bannon actually thought that there was a good possibility he was, in fact, a racist.
Obviously, to some extent, you have written an unbelievably readable book. And I'm just wondering whether, in a sense, in order to render it so readable, you have been broad brush.
I don't know how to answer that. I suppose that one had to take 7 months and reduce them into 325 pages. So there are parts of this that I have skirted over and parts of this that I have focused in on.
There's a lot of talk at the moment around him about mental health, but it actually seems from your book as if actually what is surprising the generals and the other people who surround him is that this is Donald Trump, and from what you're saying, that's what he's always been. There's no mental health there. It's all about just who he is.
You know, I think, yes, I completely agree with this. This is Donald Trump in full. But, you know, one of the things that people say about the White House is that it tends to, whoever you are and whatever your virtues are and your flaws are, it tends to intensify everything. So I think that we have Donald Trump, who we've always known what that is, but Donald Trump in the White House is a kind of Donald Trump on steroids. And I think that can be, in any reasonable person's view, alarming.
And we learn he doesn't read and he doesn't listen, but he has to make decisions as the President of the United States. How does he make decisions if he doesn't do the former?
Well, I mean, that's the question that everyone around him has to deal with on a daily, if not minute-by-minute basis. How do you get information to someone who doesn't read and doesn't listen? And they've invented a whole range of strategies for doing this. You funnel the information through the television shows that he watches. You funnel it through the rich guys he speaks to at night. But it remains the central conundrum, and I would say the central crisis of this White House. He just doesn't know enough, isn't interested enough to make decisions, certainly in any conventional way.
He is a celebrity, and there is talk of another following him, though a very different character, Oprah. What do you make of looking for another high-profile celebrity, whether good or bad?
I think my view was that Donald Trump is an anomaly. He happened for lots of reasons. Among those reasons are an enormous frustration with politics as we have known it, with politicians as we have known them. I look at it as something of an experiment, and I think that every day more and more people come to the conclusion that it is a failed experiment. I do not expect that we will try to repeat this experiment.
But will he last for this section of the experiment, i.e. until the next election?
You know, I go with Steve Bannon's calculation on this. 33% chance he'll be impeached, 33% chance he'll resign under the shadow of the 25th Amendment, and a 33% chance he will limp to the end of his term, but a 0% chance that he will have another term or even run for another term.
Michael Wolff, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.